The Wi-Fi issue here in Valhalla Underground Studio has been fixed. Welcome to another edition of the C+J Speedway Review, live and in your face on YouTube. If you're watching it later, it's just in your face. My name's Chris Burns from the Loki and Jabroni Show. You can catch us live streaming every Tuesday night on Facebook. You can catch us on audio only on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Across the screen from me, diligently working to find whatever it is he finds on the internet, is Mr. Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. As you guys can tell, my voice is a little bit groggy today because I have a little bit of a cold right now, but I just pretty much said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to play sick, just like what all the NFL players do or players do, like, they play hurt. So, but other than that, we had a really great weekend at Bristol. Not so really much of a fan of the rain, but, when I saw that the race was being moved to Monday, I thought, okay, so I'm off Monday, which is perfect. They got most of the race in, and not only it was a great race on Saturday, but it was also a great race this weekend. And some people were saying that it was kind of like the old Bristol, and everybody was thinking the old Bristol's coming back. But I say to me, like, I'm thinking it's there, but it's not there like just yet. But other than that, we got another short track coming up this weekend, and it should be pretty exciting.
Absolutely, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Usually I write down all our picks. I didn't write your picks down this week. I apologize. If you remember what they were, that's my bad. But I know, the weather has a lot to do with the Bristol racing this weekend. They had the PJ compound that seemed to work tremendously. There's a lot of questions about that going forward, which I'm sure we'll discuss in weeks going on. But one of the things that really struck me, and I'm sure it struck you, thanks for rubbing in that you were off Monday. I had to race home an hour to get here for the last 100 and change laps. The ghost town that was the stands in Bristol for the Cup race. Now, I understand that when a race gets rained out on Sunday, a lot of people make travel plans. They have to give up their tickets. They sell them, what have you. The last time I went to a race that was rained out was Charlotte in 2015. Angela and I made all the arrangements. We stayed. It was now a day race rather than a night race. The stands were about a half to three-quarters full. You watch that Bristol race on Monday, and even on Sunday, it looked like there was a bomb threat at Bristol Motor Speedway. It was just so sparsely populated, and it was heartbreaking because Bristol is a ticket that, like, every NASCAR fan has on their bucket list.
Right.
So what do you make of the was it the weather? Was it the racing? Is it the rules package? Is it Kyle Busch? What is keeping people away from Bristol Motor Speedway this past weekend?
Well, I'd probably say, like, once it starts raining, like on a weekend, like, let's say like for Richmond, I mean, not Richmond, Bristol. And, let's face it, you got those race fans that are there for like the weekend, and, they have their travel plans all accordingly. And, and they say like, oh, like we're only here until like, Monday or so forth, and we can't like stay or anything else in between. And, and let's be honest, like, they're just going to have to play like a Ferris Bueller, if they were going to want to go to the race on Monday and so forth. But other than that, I probably say like, the only thing that race fans hate is rain. And, I hate rain myself. And, whenever that happens on a weekend, like you just say to yourself, okay, great. Now the race is going to go to the next day, and, I can't really do anything about it and so forth. But, you look at the stands on Monday and you just take a look at it. I'd probably say like, NASCAR is trying to do something like, with like ticket pricing, because they have been mentioning about that the last couple months. I'd probably say like after like 2009, like ever since like the Great Depression collapse part 2, whatever you call it. I mean, there has been people that can't afford, getting Cup tickets because they're only like $200 a piece and stuff like that and so on. Not only you got to get Cup tickets, but you also have to have like airfare, hotels, and they could be like almost like $100, maybe even more, like in between. But then you go to the Xfinity series, and they're only selling their tickets for like probably $50, $60 like for the day, and you get the general admission seatings. You could just sit like almost anywhere you want. And not only that, what's also perfect about it is Xfinity and the Truck Series is also making a deal where if you have a kid that's like 12 and under, they can get in for free. So
Right.
my opinion is I really think that they should have, ticket pricings in the Cup Series that could be affordable, you know, for the race fans, not only if they're traveling to like a racetrack that's like out of state, or if they're doing like airfare whatsoever. I really think NASCAR should take a look at saying like, okay, if race fans want to go to a racetrack that's out of state, we want to try and do something not only with ticket pricings at the racetrack, but we also want to do we also want to do pricings, when it comes to airfare and hotels, so then that other way everybody can afford it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they have done a great job reducing the pricing for a lot of these races. Um, I've seen it myself. My wallet is a little bit fuller now when I go down to the
Yeah.
racetrack because the tickets aren't so ridiculously priced. Um, I really do agree with you. I think the weather, the cold. It wasn't Martinsville. It wasn't a snow out, but it was bitter
No.
cold in Bristol, Tennessee. It was rainy, gray, drizzly, dank. Yeah, I'm not surprised by this. Whereas a week before, you have a beautiful sunny day in Chicago, Illinois, where the White Sox are playing, and they sold 10,000 tickets and 900 people showed up. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure that has to do with the poor play that is hampering the Chicago White Sox. But for Bristol Motor Speedway, I don't care if it's 1 degree and I have to be bundled up like I'm going on an Alaskan mission. That's Bristol,
Yeah.
baby. I want to be there. I know you had something you wanted to bring up. I have a couple quick hits before we break down the weekend. Why don't you hit everybody with your big question of the day?
All right. So the big question of the day, if I could try and find it somewhere, because right now my computer is acting up at the moment, so I'm just trying to.
Oh, so you're having Valhalla Underground moments like we had Tuesday night.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. So I can't really think of what the question of the day was, but
I remember
all
Corey
right.
wanted to talk about 2019. Ford is going to introduce the Mustang onto
Yep.
the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series, and I believe it trickles to the Xfinity Series as well. Am I wrong?
They do run the Mustang and Xfinity. Yes.
Okay, so it's both series are going to have the same body style on
Yeah.
each circuit. What is your take on this, real quick?
I'm really excited, and I probably say the Ford teams, with the Mustang next year, I really think they're going to be competitive, and I probably say it's not going to be the same as what the Chevy Camaro ZL1 is going to be, but I think if you look at it, I would say that the one driver that's going to have success with this Mustang next year is going to be Ricky Stenhouse Jr., considering the fact that he's won 2 championships in the Xfinity Series. And, I look at it, I mean, I think he's going to be the one to watch. And I really think that, this could be, Roush Fenway Racing's revival next season. So will it happen? I mean, we shall see. But, I'm actually excited, with the new body style that's coming out. And I think it's going to be competitive next year than what it is this year.
Since 2014, the Fords have really come up after years and years of just headache, hassle, and horse manure. So when Harvick, and you can even go back a couple of years to Stewart. So when Stewart wins his final championship, then Harvick wins a championship, Keselowski wins a championship. There's a couple guys that have brought Ford back to the forefront, and then you go to the last couple of years with Busch in a Toyota, Truex in a Toyota, Johnson in a Chevrolet. It's really leveled the playing field, and Ford has done a great job of putting great aero packages out there for the drivers. Now, as we all know, the chassis are built in-house. The engines are either built in-house or outsourced to other engine builders. But the sleek style of the Mustang is really going to make a difference for these Fords. They're already strong. All the Ford teams have great engine packages, great chassis packages.
Absolutely.
You throw that sleek Mustang body on that car, and you're going to see more Fords than not winning week after week after week. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great deal.
I really think it is, and I'll just have to see what happens in 2019. But I'm excited.
All right. Well, I got 2 quick hits before we break down the action that was at Bristol. Right now, Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, have combined to win 5 of the first 8 races of the season. What driver is likely to break their dominance?
What driver is likely to break their dominance? I'm probably going to have to say maybe Kyle Busch on this one.
Kyle Busch is part of the question. You cannot answer Kyle Busch.
Right.
Let me try this again.
Okay.
I'll even slow it down because I understand you're under the weather.
Yeah.
And you're my friend. Kevin
Yes.
Harvick and Kyle Busch have combined to win 5 of the first 8 races of the season. Who is most likely to break up their dominance? So it can't be Harvick, it can't be Busch. Those guys right now are dominating the season.
Oh, okay.
Although only 8 races in. Who's going to break that?
Okay, second time, I'm going to have to go with Larson.
Okay. Reason being?
Reason being was because, he had a great run at Bristol this past weekend. And even though he's one of the Chevy teams that's trying to catch up and everything, but we're going to Richmond where, Larson won last year. And this is one of those racetracks where you'll probably see the 42 car run up on the top. And, considering the fact that, he's one of those guys that knows how to run on dirt and knows how to drive a loose race car. And, I really think that, the 42 can get to victory lane on Sunday.
I got a two-headed answer, and they're both from the same team. If it's going to be anybody, it's going to either be Ryan Blaney or Brad Keselowski.
Okay.
Blaney, my God, you saw what he did on Sunday
at
Bristol before the unfortunate wreck that took him out. You've seen what Blaney has done week to week to week so far in these 8 races. Keselowski is always a threat. I know there was that one crash at California that took him right out of contention.
Yeah.
So, but they're strong. They were always guys that you had to look over your shoulder if you're the driver to see, is the 2 or the 12 right behind me? And if so, how do I keep them? How do I hold them off? Those would be my picks.
Right.
And I'll just throw this out there. Let me make it a blanket pick. Penske Racing will be the team, whether it's Blaney, Keselowski, or Logano, that is going to break the dominance of Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick.
If I had to pick one of the 3 of them, I'd definitely have to say Blaney. He had a really good car at Martinsville back in March. He led about, I want to say, 115 laps before he finished 3rd. But I'd say the 12 car, I really think he's going to be a one to watch this weekend too.
All right. Well, my next question is a little bit more slanted. Ryan Blaney is on a 30-race winless drought. Jimmy Johnson, 31-race winless drought. Joey Logano, 35 races. Ryan Newman, 40 races. Kurt Busch, 43 races. All large droughts. Who is going to be the first in that group to score a victory and break the drought?
It's definitely going to be Blaney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
you came out of the box strong with that answer.
He has been running good, and I got to say that, he's getting close on winning. And, you saw what he did at Bristol this past Sunday. Led 99 laps. Could have had a good car to win the race. He got taken out, but I really think that this will probably be the weekend the 12 car will go to victory lane.
I can't argue with you. I mean, just the laps led and everything that went into this past weekend, and then going on, it was actually 101 laps.
Yeah,
I just went to my cheat sheet.
Okay.
But like you mentioned, the other tracks that he has just been so close yet so far away. Blaney will be in victory lane again before Chase Elliott gets to victory lane for the first time on the Cup Series.
All right.
I know that's bold, but hey, I got to call him like I see him. Truthfulness is what we're about.
I definitely agree.
Having said that, we had Xfinity Racing, the Fitzgerald Glider Kits 300 this past Saturday. Obviously, no weather bothered them. And both of us, I believe, had the same sleeper pick, Ryan Preeces, winning that race. God bless him. Thank God. We've been waiting for Ryan Preeces, semi-local boy to both of us, scoring the victory. You watched the race. Tell me what you saw.
Well, I'd probably say this is one of the 4 Dash for Cash races Xfinity had to offer this year. So what was actually interesting about this weekend was there was no Cup drivers, which I really thought that was really good. So we got to see the guys that were running a part-time schedule or running the full Xfinity Championship, show their performance. And, yet again, Ryan Preeces, who's not running the Xfinity Series Championship this year, ended up taking home the win. And I was watching him this past weekend, and I said to myself, I wouldn't be too surprised if this kid goes to victory lane on Saturday. Because you think about it, Bristol's a half-mile track, and Preece has been running on the short tracks whenever it comes to the modifieds, whatsoever in between. But he had a really good run, and then it was also a shame for Christopher Bell. He got caught up in a crash. I probably say not only once, but like twice.
You're
when
breaking up, kid. I gotta hear what you broke up a little bit. I gotta hear what you just said.
All right. So it was a shame for Christopher Bell. Not only he got caught up in one crash, which was like at the start of the race, but he ended up getting into the second crash where he tried to avoid the accident, where he kind of spun and he got hit by the side, whatever it is, and so forth. But actually, one driver that kind of impressed me the most, and kind of actually surprised me, was the 19 of Brandon Jones, and he was on, I think, a strategy where he was only running like 76 laps on tires, and then a caution comes out, and I believe he stayed out, if I remember, so forth. But you look at the results, he ended up coming home, I believe, okay, let me just take a look. Yeah, he came home in sixth, but other than that, I thought it was a great race, and I say that, I think NASCAR, and I also saw an article, they said that they're possibly thinking of doing Xfinity races in 2019, without Cup drivers, and I really think, it is a good rule, but, I think we should probably leave it the way it is right now before NASCAR makes that call whatsoever.
Look, we've talked about this a million times. I don't want to beat a dead horse. If you've won a championship, you don't get to go down to the Xfinity Series and run a race. That's my personal rule. If I were running NASCAR and they gave me the reins and said, how would you handle the Xfinity Series? If you've won a championship, you do not get to go down to the Xfinity Series and run and get extra track time, or the Truck Series, or the K&N. There's a lot of fringe tracks where I know Eldora is one of them, where when you see the Cup guys get out there, fantastic. Go see them. That dirt race is fantastic. Or the Chili Bowl every January-ish.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely go run that race. But the Xfinity Series, and I'm hoping this is the last time I have to say it, is where the stars of tomorrow make their name, and the stars that have fallen try to keep their name. This is not a place for the Kevin Harvick and the Kyle Busches and, Martin Truexes to go down and get extra track time and get extra, data on this is how we're going to set up our car for Sunday. Wrong answer. Yes, I know those names draw houses. It's a lot like wrestling. If you want to draw a big house, you put a big name on top. I get it. It's dollars and cents. But at the same time, you are robbing the young guys of what they're working so hard toward. Also, you're robbing these other guys who have risen, gotten to the top level, slipped back just a little bit. Elliott Sadler being one of them. Tremendous talent. This is a guy that everybody picked to be the next big thing on the Cup Series, and it just didn't translate. So you slide back a little bit, you have a good time. Red Sox fans around the world, if you are from this area and you ever went to a Pawtucket Red Sox game in the 80s and 90s, you will remember the name Roger LaFrancois. He was a guy from Griswold, Connecticut, not far from me. All the talent in the world. Had a cup of coffee with the Sox a couple times, but he just wasn't. He wasn't Gary Allenson. He wasn't Rich Gedman. He wasn't Jason Varitek. So he had to fit into that AAA Pawtucket Red Sox role, and he flourished. He did a great job. He's still around these parts. You say that name, and people go, "Oh," he's one of those guys that you're always going to see on the underneath. Go to hockey. If you're a Bruins fan, you may know the name Tommy Cross. If you don't know the name Tommy Cross, go to a P. Bruins game. This kid is lightning. But when you put him up in the big leagues with Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, Zdeno Chara, you're not going to translate because you're not at that level yet, and you end up lost in the shuffle, and you end up back in Providence playing for the AAA team. Is that a knock on Tommy Cross's ability? No. Is that a knock on Elliott Sadler's ability? No. But I dare say, and I know the Providence Bruins are in the playoffs right now, I dare say if, for whatever reason, the big team decides to send Zdeno Chara down to give extra defense to the Providence Bruins, a lot of people would cry foul.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm crying foul. But that's the last I'm going to say on it for until the next time Corey brings it up.
Exactly.
Sorry about that, kid. But let me give you guys the rundown of the Fitzgerald Glider Kids 300. Ryan Preece, obviously, you're a winner. Congratulations to that kid. Justin Allgaier in second. Daniel Hemrick third. L8 Sadler fourth. Spencer Gallagher fifth. Brandon Jones, who Corey just mentioned, came home in a very respectable sixth.
Yep.
Tyler Reddick seventh. Cole Custer eighth. Ross Chastain ninth. And Ryan Truex rounds out your top 10. Other notables, Austin Cindric in 12th. John Hunter Nemechek in 13th. We go down just a little bit. Joe Nemechek, father of John Hunter and front row Joe himself, comes in 19th. Chase Briscoe, a disappointing 23rd. Christopher Bell, a disappointing 29th. And past that, Matt Tift. What a terrible run for him in 35th. Give me your happy and give me your sad on this race.
I'd probably say my happy on this one. I'm going to have to go with Spencer Gallagher on this one. Driving the 23 team and hasn't had that much success, I think, the last 2 years when he was driving in the Xfinity Series. Happy for him. I go off the top 5 at Bristol on Saturday, and we got to see what he was made out of and so forth. My disappointment would definitely have to be. Jeez. My disappointment.
I know there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, my disappointment would definitely have to be the 19 of Brandon Jones. I mean, even though he's finished 6th, I'd have to say that, I'm going to have to go back to, like, the last caution that came out when he was leading, and he was on that tire strategy for about, 76 laps. And I'd said, okay, if he could have stayed out or had the caution not come out, I really think the 19 car would have pulled in the victory lane. But other than that, it was a good run. But I really want to see more out of the 19 team this year.
I got to say, this might be the first time in the history of us doing happy and sad that someone took a 6th place finisher as their disappointment or their sad, because, 6th place is very respectable.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Brandon Jones was running better than the 6th place finish indicates. 1,000% agreed.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the happy, I've been talking about it as long as since I first saw this kid, Ryan Preece. Very glad he found his way to victory lane, especially at a place that is as tough as Bristol. And speaking of tough, you talked about guys getting in trouble. When we get to the Cup Series, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. really impressed me because he got in some early trouble and still found his way into the top 10. So kudos to him.
Yeah.
My sad would obviously have to be who I thought was going to be my lock pick for Bristol, which is Christopher Bell. Did not exactly light the world on fire. I don't know what else to say. He was disappointing all the way around.
Yeah.
So real quick, let me go to the point standings up through and including this particular race here at Bristol Motor Speedway. L8 Sadler leads the points with 261. Daniel Hemrick is in second with 255. Tyler Reddick third, 247. Justin Allgaier fourth with 240. Not a bad run in the points, but a bad run in Bristol for Christopher Bell, 226. Cole Custer in sixth with 218. Ryan Truex, 211. Spencer Gallagher, 208. Brandon Jones, we've talked about him a lot, 193. And Ryan Reed rounds out the top 10 in 183. Going a little further down without reading their points, Tift is in 11th, Cindric 13th, Kaz Gralla 14th, Ryan Preece 15th, and rising, let's be honest. And you go a little bit further down the way, and I'm still not seeing a lot of fire out of John Hunter. John Hunter Nemechek, 23rd. That's got to be a little disheartening for that team.
I definitely say it is, and considering the fact that he's not running a full schedule, or he's, right now he's running a limited schedule, I mean, he's pretty much going to be in the bottom, like in the top 20, like depending on where he finishes every week. But, like I said, I think John Hunter's got a lot of talent, and, if he does get that full-time ride, either like in 2019 or in 2020, we'll see how he performs, and, depending on what team he goes to. But other than that, so far his average finish, I think, is, I want to say it's a 15.3. I want to say, but it's not really too bad. But other than that, I really expect more out of the 42.
Oh, absolutely. And 23rd, like you said, with a limited schedule, you look at the guys he's ahead of: Dylan Lupton, Chase Briscoe, Spencer Boyd, guys that are running full-time schedules. I don't want to make it a knock on those guys that are a little bit lower, but it's a double-edged sword. John Hunter Nemechek is definitely better than 23rd, even if he's running limited, but those guys beneath him have to be wondering, how is this part-timer that far ahead of me in the standings?
Right.
So if you have nothing else, do you have anything else to weigh in on as far as the Fitzgerald Gliders?
Well, I'd probably say before we go on to the next subject, I mean, it's it was a good race, and I definitely am excited to see a lot more out of Ryan Preeces this season, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he can rack up a couple more wins in that 18 car, and like I said, he's got a really good car right now. He's got a good team, and just have to see what happens going forward.
All right. Well, as you guys already know, you watch this show, you're a fan of NASCAR, or you listen to this show, however you imbibe us, you know that the Food City 500 was plagued by weather issues, not only Sunday, but also on Monday. Speaking of plagues, Kyle Busch wins the entire thing.
Yeah.
Not exactly a dominant performance, but easily one of the top 3 cars that were out on that track. He looked good all of Sunday. He looked good and sounded good because I had PRN in my ear all of Monday. He just really looked and sounded unstoppable. What's your take on Kyle Busch in this race?
Well, I knew he was going to win back-to-back, and now we're already seeing a phase of this 18 team is going to be a one to watch for when it comes to the playoff time. So I'd probably say not only the 4, but I think the 18 is going to be right on its neck, like before we even get to the playoffs in September. And you look at this team. I mean, yes, they've won almost everywhere they went, and you look at the race this past weekend, and Kyle Busch, he's won almost 7 times at Bristol, and he's just been dominant like ever since he's been over there and so forth. But when it came down between him and Kyle Larson in the final laps, and you saw that 42 car coming, you said to yourself if Kyle can manage to get through that lap traffic, I think he'd be just fine. And there was one point, where the 42 car almost caught him, but just couldn't get there at the end. And but and also I really liked what Larson said in his review. He said it sucks for Kyle Busch, to finish second to Kyle Busch every single time, but and I really liked that. I really liked how he vents his frustration, that he doesn't like finishing second to Kyle Busch, but let's face it, whenever you're racing Busch, either in Xfinity or the Truck Series or in the Cup Series, whatever, you need to race them. You need to do what you got to do, and and if you get beat, you get beat. But but if you beat them, then you accomplish something.
Right, and going back to what he said in the post race, when Kyle Busch finished second behind Harvick or whomever, I think it was twice behind Harvick and once behind, was it Boyer or Truex? Can't remember which one. He finished second 3 times, and he just, oh, this is getting disappointing. Boo hoo hoo. Kyle Larson comes out and says, hey, I finished second to this guy. That just means I got to work a little harder next time. Props to Kyle Larson. Horse manure to Kyle Busch. But I can't deny what Kyle Busch, or either Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson. What they both did on Sunday was fantastic. They combined to lead over 210 laps between the two of them. That's just dominant performance. I repeat, you cannot ignore the fact that these two guys are the best on the track. And like you said, with about 10 laps to go, Larson really did look like he was going to give Busch a run for his money. And something didn't translate. He couldn't make the move. Kyle Busch, being a vet, is too good and blocked him, or whatever the case is. Kyle Busch did what he had to do to win, and Kyle Larson, unfortunately, came up just a little short.
Absolutely.
So I'll run down the top 10 and the notables. Obviously, Kyle Busch wins. Kyle Larson second. Here it comes, guys. Take your hands away from the panic button. Jimmy Johnson comes home third. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. bounces back from a couple of mishaps to finish fourth. Alex Bowman, the showman, comes in fifth. Eric Almirola sixth. Kevin Harvick comes from dead last to finish seventh. Clint Boyer eighth. Joey Logano 9. And Ryan Newman, who I want to speak on, remind me, do not let me forget to speak on Ryan Newman, comes in 10th. Other notables, Daniel Suarez had a great day, comes in 11th. Denny Hamlin 14th. Bubba Wallace 16th, and actually led a couple laps, if I'm not mistaken. Wow. To hear over the PRN when he took the lead and the crowd roared for Bubba when he took the lead. Fantastic on him. Kurt Busch, a disappointing 22nd, followed by Brad Keselowski, a disappointing 23rd. Moving down the list, Chase Elliott, 29, Martin Truex, 30, and Ryan Blaney, 35th. I know I told you in a text message I was going to have 2 happies and 2 sads from this race, but I'm curious to hear your happies and sads before we go forward.
All right, so my happy after this weekend is definitely going to have to be the 43 of Bubba Wallace. And for him to lead, a couple laps in that 43 car, not only he had the SDP colors on there, I thought that was pretty cool. And, I said to myself, I really hope that, Bubba wins a race this year, because last week he finished 8th. This weekend he comes home pretty decent, comes home 16th. So it wasn't really too bad for him. And, I'd probably say, Richmond, we could probably see him, run pretty good because, we saw how he did at Bristol, not too bad, led a couple laps, ends up coming home 16th. So he was pretty much my happy for the week. My sad moment, definitely is going to have to be the 12 of Ryan Blaney. Led about 101 laps, got caught up in that wreck before stage 1 or something like that. But, no, I mean, I'd probably say, he had a really great car. He started 5th. Could have won the race. He got caught up in that accident. But I really think the 12, I'm hoping he wins the race sometime soon, which will probably be this season.
Good call by you. All right, here it comes, guys. Every time I say something like this, I say mark your calendars. Today is April 19th. I don't wear a watch, so don't quote me on the time. My first of my 2 happies is Jimmy Johnson coming home in 3rd. That team needed a boost, and it needed a boost in a big way. So for Jimmy Johnson, who has had success at Bristol prior, to come home in 3rd, having led 0 laps, but behind the 2 guys that combined to lead over 300 laps, fantastic finish for Jimmy Johnson. You still need to take that damn picture down. I'm not gonna stop until you take that picture down and replace it with, Eddie Van Halen or something. I don't care. Or Johnny Cash. I saw your T-shirt, by the way. Fantastic. My second happy is happy. It's Happy Harvick. To go from 39th in a backup car to battle all the way to 7th, he never really had a chance to take the lead. It seemed like every time Harvick got a really good run, a caution would come out. Me and my infinite wisdom, I'm like, oh, this is it. As soon as we get the restart, he's going to go forward. No, his car was good. His car was even great. But it wasn't fantastic like Busch or like Larson or like Johnson. But to move up 32 spots throughout the course of the race, and it only took him about 28, 29 laps to get into the top 15 and then hang there throughout the entire time and to walk away with a 7th, you got to give that boy credit. If I had an honorable mention, I'd give it to Daniel Suarez. My 2 sads are easy. Ryan Blaney, poor guy, to get in that wreck that happened in front of him when he was in the lead. I mean, how often do you see that? Not very often. He was leading. Kane goes one way, another car goes another way, and Ryan Blaney just plows in, and his day was over. But my second stat, I told you I was going to do 2, is clearly Martin Truex Jr. Yes, he has a win this season. Yes, he is I believe, 7th in points. I'm not even looking at my cheat sheet yet, but I think he's 7th or 8th in points.
Yeah.
What a disappointing start to the season. That one win aside, and not the season that the defending champion you would expect him to have.
No, not at all. I mean, like, he got caught up in that first wreck, and I really didn't think it was going to be that bad. But once he had like damage on the side of the car or something that had to do with like suspension or whatever it is, I thought, well, he's probably not going to like contend for the win now or a top 10 or whatsoever. But I'd probably say like a win aside, like I want to say like the team's not like that bad, but back to back weeks, of Texas, he hits the wall, while he cuts a tire, and then Bristol gets caught up in a wreck. I'm not really too surprised like about his performance, and I wouldn't hit the panic button on them just yet. But what, excuse me, once we get to playoff time, then we're really going to have to see like how the 78 team's going to do, and if it's going to be possible, if he's going to repeat as champion and go back to the Final Four in November.
With the win, he's already in.
Yeah.
So there's not really a panic button need for the 78 team of Martin Truex Jr. The panic button, if you're a fan of the 78, like my 10-year-old daughter upstairs, she'll always ask me. She was here this past week, and you tell her, "Hey, Martin Truex crashed out." When I would text her, "Hey, Martin Truex won, yay!" or "Hey, Martin Truex finished 8th, yay!" or he crashed out. If you're a fan of the 78 right now, and you're above the age of 10 years old, you really have to worry that regardless, you have a win, you're in. This isn't a Chris Buescher situation where you lucked into a win. This is Martin Truex Jr., reigning and defending series champion. He won that race on skill.
Yeah.
What you have to worry about now is sliding down the totem pole to where when we reach race 26 and when the checkered flag drops, you have enough bonus points to be at the top half, or you're just lucky enough to have a couple bonus points to be at the bottom half. If I'm a 78 fan, my hand is hovering right now over the panic button.
Yeah.
So let's break down the finish. Did I already do that? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
All right, so let's break down the points then. Kyle Busch is still your points leader at 365. Joey Logano is 59 points behind at 306. Kevin Harvick third and 290. What a drop off between first and third. But again, early in the season, a lot of things can happen. Clint Boyer fourth. When in the history of NASCAR can you ever utter these words? And I'm thrilled. I think it's great. Clint Boyer is fourth in the points with 286. Brad Keselowski fifth with 271. Ryan Blaney sixth, 267. Martin Truex Jr. seventh at 257. Denny Hamlin is in eighth at 252. Kyle Larson ninth, 249. And Kurt Busch rounds out your top 10 at 241. Here come your notables. Alex Bowman is moving up the ranks. A couple weeks ago, he was very, very low. Now he's in 13th. Ryan Newman, do not let me forget about Ryan Newman. In 15th, Jimmy Johnson's moving up in 17th. Bubba Wallace, 21st. And if I go down just a little bit further, and I'm just going to say this because he used to be a force. He used to be someone that was always in and around the top 10, if not the top 15. But disappointing 29th for Casey Kane. I just don't know if Casey Kane still has what it takes to compete at the highest level.
I just don't think so either. I mean, I think with Circle Sport Levine, you look at his average finish right now, I want to say it's a 24.6, so not really that great. I mean, let's be honest, like we all knew that like Casey wasn't going to go to a top ride or a top ride was not going to want him, but I mean, you go to Circle Sport Levine, I wasn't really surprised about that pick, but then yet again, like, Casey wants to like perform in Cup. So I'd probably say, if he doesn't run great this year, chances are, he might go down to Xfinity, I think, in like 2019 or whatever he decides to do.
One of the names that comes up when you said that, and you just want to perform, is when Kurt Busch left or was let go from Penske Racing. He drove for Furniture Row. He drove for a lot of lower end teams, and then Tony Stewart comes swooping in and saying, I think you have something more. Let me give you a top ride. And Kurt Busch, to be honest, has put on a heck of a show in Stewart-Haas Racing. Sooner, I don't know if anybody saw the video of the Speed Crate that you guys could potentially win in just a few weeks. On the cover of Pole Position magazine is none other than Kurt Busch. The 2004 champion is seriously making a hard charge back toward the front. And I don't know if I'm going to temper this statement by saying, sorry, Casey Kane fan.
Yeah.
I don't think Casey Kane has the same heart or the same tenacity or the same fight that Kurt Busch has.
I don't think so either.
And it's sad because Casey Kane, I've been to races where Casey Kane has won. I've watched him on television win races. I've seen him be very competitive, whether it was with Hendrick Motorsports or Evernham Racing. Wherever he's gone, he's been a winner. Now he's just another guy in the field that if they talk about him, it's because he has trouble or somehow he accidentally finds his way into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at last year, when Casey had that bad performance, in a couple of races, some of the crashes that he got into, wasn't really his own doing. And then, then you go to July, he ends up winning at Indianapolis, and so then that just pretty much had everybody thinking, okay, is Casey going to be back at Hendrick? Is he not? And so forth. excuse me. And then, a couple months later, Rick says, William Byron's got a lot of talent. He's been winning races in Xfinity. So he replaces him, and, that leaves Casey without a ride. So then he goes to Circle Sport, gets into that ride. McDowell's out, so then he goes to Front Row Motorsports and whatsoever in between. But you look at Casey Kane. I remember the days where he used to dominate at Evernham, and 2004, he could have won a lot of races. He missed the playoffs that year, or better yet, the chase. Won Rookie of the Year. 2005, he wins the race, and then 2006 was probably one of his dominant years, winning 6 races in the 9 team, and then 2007 had a slump. 2008, they won 2 races, and then 2009, only won a race, and then I probably say it's not only his performance, but you just look at the amount of wins that he's won. I mean, he's only won 6 races, in a season before, but then other than that, he's mostly won either 1 or 2 races a year, and I just look at Casey Kane right now, and I think to myself, I'd probably say he'll maybe be at Circle Sport for another year, but I just don't see him, being in the Cup Series, I think, in the next 3 years.
Well, I can certainly agree with that. Do you remember who pushed Casey Kane out of the playoffs in 2004?
I believe that was Dale Jr.
No, it was his teammate, Jeremy Mayfield. The Chevy Rock and Roll 400, I was there. Mayfield wins the race, sneaks his way into the playoffs. I'll never forget that. By the way, Crime and Sports, episode 95, Jeremy Mayfield. Go find it. Jimmy Wisman loves everything we do, by the way.
Yes.
One of the co-hosts of Crime and Sports and Small Town Murder. I had to stop listening to this week's Small Town Murder to come do this, and that's not a knock on us or not a knock on Small Town Murder, but priorities are priorities, man.
Exactly.
Going back to Casey Kane, seeing that 9 car, that Evernham car, he was just he reminds me of Terry Labonte. You don't win. Terry Labonte didn't win 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races in a season like a Jeff Gordon, like a Rusty Wallace, like a Dale Earnhardt. You could win 2 or 3 races and be in that elite, that top echelon, that top 10, whoever was battling for a championship, and be competitive. And now with the chase, it makes it even even better, where if you're a guy who can score 2-3 victories in a year, and then you go into late September, October, November, and translate it, you get that late run like a Tony Stewart used to have. I used to always circle August 1st on my calendar as a race fan and say, this is where Tony Stewart's going to start to skyrocket. And
Yeah.
it worked. He was the best at it. There's not a lot of guys now, except for Jimmy Johnson, who takes that fall run going toward the championship and makes it a reality. And again, I'm saying nice things about Jimmy Johnson again. This is, I must be smoking something. I don't know. Having said that, Casey Kane needs to have a breakout season either this year or next.
Yeah.
To still be considered a realistic competitor and a realistic contender on the Cup Series, or he's going to find himself as field filler and another guy underfunded. All the talent in the world. I don't take anything away from Casey Kane, but you can be the best driver in the world, but even the worst equipment's not going to get to victory lane.
Yeah, I hardly agree on that too.
All right, then. So we move on. Tomorrow night, if you're watching this live with us on Thursday, is the Toyota Care 250 at Richmond on 420. No word on if the crowd is going to be puffing the stinky green or not. But Richmond is always a track for me that equates two things. There's breakneck speed. The corners are high banked, so you can carry that speed. There's really not a lot of brake that goes on, except when you first dive into the corner. Anybody who's ever played a NASCAR video game will tell you this. When you dive in to either turn 1 or turn 3, there's that really quick brake, and you have to roll the car down so you can hold that bottom line. And then in turn 2 and turn 4 is what I, on the video game, call the Richmond whip. When your car is coming back down the track and you hit that brake and you get that all that momentum and all that speed and all of everything, and you hit that, you seem to get like a little boost, as if you had a Knight Rider turbo boost going on in your car. The Richmond Rip is wheel. Let me try that again. The Richmond Whip is real. You try saying that 5 times fast. You'll trip over your tongue and kill yourself. The Richmond Whip is real. When you come out of those turns, and especially coming out of 4, going into the dog leg that leads to the start-finish line, if you can carry a great amount of speed coming out of 4, you will beat anybody to that line. And having said that, what is our list of entries going in to the Toyota Care 250?
So I want to give this out. So it's going to be another Dash for Cash race this weekend. So
Fantastic.
there's going to be no Cup drivers in the field. So I'll give you a list of the drivers that are going to be replacing the Cup guys tomorrow night. So Jeb Burton is going to be making his RCR debut in the number 3 Estes Express Lines Chevrolet. Let me see here. Austin Cindric will be back in the 22 car for the second straight week. John Hunter Nemechek is going to be in the 42 car Friday night, driving the Fire Alarm Services Chevrolet for Chip Ganassi Racing. And what a surprise here. Noah Gragson is going to be making his Xfinity Series debut driving the 18 Switch Toyota. And I got to tell you this, when I saw that Noah Gragson was going to make his Xfinity debut, I said, I'm definitely going to watch this kid. He's got a lot of talent coming in, and I really think, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins one of his 3 races this year. So those are the guys that'll be replacing the Cup guys. So other notables, you'll have Elliott Sadler, Justin Allgaier, you have Michael Annett, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Truex, Joe Nemechek, Christopher Bell in the 20, Daniel Hemrick in the 21, Alex LeBay in the 36, Josh Balicki in the 45, Stephen Light in the 55. Chase Briscoe will be back in the 60 car this weekend for Roush Fenway. And, of course, the guy that will seem to retire but probably won't will be Morgan Shepherd.
Morgan Shepherd will find a way to get into a car as long as he's alive. He could be 92 years old, And if there's a track that doesn't have enough, much like every year at New Hampshire, we see Morgan Shepherd, and he's out after X amount of laps because his engine blows or what have you. But give it up to Morgan Shepherd. That's one of those guys that just goes out there because he loves it, not because he needs the money, not because he wants to. I'm sure he wants to be competitive, but Morgan Shepherd's not out there for anything other than the love of racing. So good on him. Having heard that list, I'm going to give you my lock and my sleeper, and then I'm going to ask you for yours. I really think I'm going to repeat my lock. I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. I think he's overdue. I think he's running better than the cars that have been underneath him. I think he's been running better than the trouble that he has found. And I think if there's one track that really speaks to Christopher Bell, it's Richmond. So that's my lock. My sleeper, I'm going to go with for you, it's a local boy. For me, it's a semi-local boy. Once again, let's go back to short tracks and the tracks in our area here in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, etc. Kaz Grala, really, if he's going to win a race on this series, this is going to be the track he's going to do it at. There's tracks around this area that's configured much like Richmond, but on a smaller scale. And just if I could say one thing, it's that short track racing. When you're a bull ring competitor like a Rusty Wallace, like a Dale Earnhardt, you come up through those. You get your first wins on the short tracks, then you graduate to the big tracks. If you get your first win on a big track, chances are you're going to become Derek Cope and be field filler. So this is where Kaz Grala is going to shine. This is where my sleeper pick comes in. This is where I see him making his mark on the Xfinity Series.
It's a good point. So my picks for this weekend, it's definitely going to be a repeat from last weekend. So I had two Gibbs guys. One was going to be my lock. The other was going to be my sleeper. So my lock is definitely going to have to be Christopher Bell. I really think that Richmond is kind of like a short track almost. And, Christopher Bell knows how to work the wheel, whenever it comes to the short tracks and whatever. And we all know how he does when he drives a loose race car and whatever. But I really think that he'll have a really good shot at winning the race tomorrow night. I mean, he has been there, but he just needs to close the deal at this point. But other than that, I'm really excited to see how this kid's going to do this year. And hopefully he can get to the championship 4 in November. My sleeper is definitely going to be Noah Gragson. I'm really interested to see how this kid is going to run in the Joe Gibbs car. And, I've seen him the last 2 years in the Kyle Busch truck, won a race last year in Martinsville, and he knows what it takes, to win a race. And he has been running really good the last 2 years at KBM. So I'm really going to be, taking a look at Gragson not only this weekend, but the next 2 races he's going to run the 18. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins either tomorrow or the 2 races that he runs.
Fantastic choices all the way around, and I can't argue with anything you said in regard to Bell or Gragson. I'm kind of dismayed that you didn't choose the local boy in Kaz Grala, but when you bring out the points that you brought up about Noah Gragson, I totally buy it 1,000%.
Yeah.
So we move to Saturday night, 6:30 p.m., or so they say. It's going to go off at like 6:51. It is the Toyota Owners 400 at a track that I love going to. It's Richmond, Virginia. Beautiful area, beautiful track, fantastic racing. I came this close at the Rock and Roll 400 in 2004, this close to meeting one of my heroes, Gene Simmons. And I'll tell you that story maybe before we close out the broadcast. You never reminded me about Ryan Newman, by the way. I'm bringing it up now. Ryan Newman, you used to be one of the classiest drivers on the track. Now you're acting like a bully. If Ryan Newman ever sees this, I was a fan of yours. It was like Rusty Wallace and everybody else, but I always believed in Ryan Newman. And then Kevin Harvick steps into the 3, which becomes a 29, so he automatically goes here. Ryan Newman was always 3rd. Ryan Newman, you were a class act. Now you're just bullying your way through the field, trying to keep your name alive. You're running for a high-dollar team like RCR. You don't have to bully the field. And who was it that Ryan Newman turned? Was it Larson?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to turn the young kid to make yourself a name. How about using your skill? How about using what the good Lord gave you and what you cultivated all these years? If I wasn't voice texting you, I was voice texting my friend Chad Hatfield out there in Noblesville, Indiana, because he was at work, but he was watching the race. He's a professional firefighter. God love you. And he's also, we'll talk about Chad later on. Anyway, but Chad and I are talking back and forth, and I'm listening to the PRN, and it was Newman just turned Larson. And Chad, former Gordon fan until he retired, now Kyle Larson fan, I was the one that said to him, I'm like, Newman was one of the classiest guys out there for years and years. What happened? And it was Chad that said he's just a bully now. He's just a bully. He wants to keep his name out there. So we don't try to cuss on this show. So I'm going to paraphrase it. Open the bag, empty the contents, insert them into your mouth. Ryan Newman, I'm done with you. I have nothing nice to say about Ryan Newman ever in the history of ever. And that's that. So, going into this race, it's all the usual suspects. I don't think we have any surprises, do we, Corey?
Well, we actually have one surprise, and that will be Daniel Hemrick is going to be making his Cup Series debut Saturday night.
That's right.
Driving the number 8 Smoky Mountain Snuff Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing.
That's right. We've been pimping that out for weeks.
And we're going to be seeing 3 RCR cars in the field Saturday night. So not only the 3 of Austin Dillon and the 31 of Ryan Newman, but the 8 of Daniel Hemrick. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited number 8 is coming back. Should have been that numeral, kind of like Dale Earnhardt Jr. back in like the back in like the DEI days, but back in like the DEI days. But I kind of like how the numeral number 8 is right now, and like I said a couple of weeks ago, it kind of looks like how Ralph Earnhardt drove it back in like the 50s and so forth. So other than that, I really want to see what this kid does because he's only running 2 races this year. So I'm thinking, I really want to see him like be strong right off the bat because he is running really good equipment. He finished 3rd in last year's Xfinity race at Richmond, so that was a really good performance out of him. So, but yeah, I'm excited for Hemrick's debut, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
And I almost forgot that we pimped that out so much on the C+J Speedway Review Facebook page. The car is gorgeous. You couldn't have had a better sponsor, especially for a guy like me who, unfortunately, after 3,494 years on this earth, I'm still hitting the can. I won't show you. I'll just show you the backside. The Smoky Mountain Snuff Company, the non-tobacco gimmick. I get it. I love it. I think it's great. Having said that, it's going to be great, and I really do hope the best for this kid, and I may change my hopeful. You know what? I'm just going to change the rules because that's what I do. All right. So, having said what we said, Corey, I'm going to have you lead it off. Give me your lock, your sleeper, and, of course, on the Cup Series, we always choose a hopeful. So, let me hear it.
All right, so my lock this weekend, I'm definitely going to have to go with Kyle Larson on this one. He won this race a year ago, the fall race, actually, and, definitely want to see how this kid's going to do, and I think, this could be the weekend where, he'll win a race this season, and I really like how Larson did at Bristol last weekend, finishing 2nd, so he's going to be my lock. My sleeper will definitely be the 8 of Daniel Hemrick. Like I said earlier, I really want to see how this kid's going to do in his debut, and I think, if he pulls off either a top 20 or a top 10, I'll be very happy, because, I've watched him in the Xfinity Series the last few years. He's got a lot of talent. Hasn't won a race in that series just yet, but I really think he's getting close in 2018. My hopeful, this will probably surprise some people, but I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace. And the way that he ran last weekend at Bristol, led a couple laps, I'm thinking, I really want to see how he does at Richmond this weekend, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
Okay, fantastic picks. I'm a little surprised by the sleeper, but I understand your thinking. My lock this week, let's go back to Bristol. If you can run well at Bristol, you can run well at Richmond. A little bit bigger at Richmond, a little bit different banking, but sister tracks in my mind. But Ryan Blaney's going to be my lock. If anybody's going to win this race, it's going to be the 12th. He's hot. He's stellar. He's solar. He is everything you want a race car driver to be right now. Unfortunately, it hasn't translated with a checkered flag. We talked earlier about who's going to break the dominance. Penske. And when I say Penske, this week I mean Ryan Blaney. My sleeper, who in the last few weeks has really impressed me, is going to be Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman turned that car around Bristol so well and parlayed it into a very good finish. So Alex Bowman is going to be my sleeper. My hopeful, I changed the rules. I have two. Obviously, Bubba Wallace. This kid has been driving his heart out, and on the shorter tracks, he's shown that he has what it takes to be in the top 10. And again, once you win, you have confidence, unless you're Derek Cope. One, you laugh, but think of the guys who have won on the big tracks and then parlayed it into success on the shorter tracks. Not a lot.
Right.
Trevor Bayne, same way. Trevor Bayne won at Daytona some years ago and has amounted to a bucket of suck. So, no offense if you're a Trevor Bayne fan, but you're never going to get a free speed crate because they don't have one for Trevor Bayne. Sorry, not sorry. My second hopeful is going to be, as you mentioned in your sleeper, Daniel Hemrick. I really want this kid to do well. I really want to see Hemrick, if not in victory lane, I want to see him in the top 10, top 15, top half of the field. This is a kid who deserves it, and for what it's worth, for his first Cup race, if he came out guns blazing and secured himself a top 10 finish, there's going to be a lot of teams like this going, okay, this is a kid we need to look at.
Yeah.
And it could manifest itself into future success, much like guys like Kevin Harvick, much like guys like Jimmy Johnson. A lot of guys that when you work your way up the ladder and you get, again, the short tracks are the toughest. Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, all those tracks, if you win there, you can win anywhere.
Yeah.
And for Daniel Hemrick, this could be that stepping stone to be the next big guy. We could be talking about, if this show goes on for 8 years, we could be talking about Daniel Hemrick being a contender, if not a champion, 8 years from now.
I definitely agree. And, I really want to see how this kid does. And, let's say that if he does get a full-time Ryder Cup in like 2019 or 2020, I think he'll be a one to watch.
Amen to that. So real quick, I know you're not feeling well, so we're going to try to get the plugs out of the way real quick. So I'll let you go first. Plug away, my friend.
All right. So Facebook, continue to follow me on NASCAR IndyCar Central. Instagram, I am on at NASCAR IndyCar. Twitter, I am at NASCAR Indy. So NASCAR IndyCar Central, keep following me. We post up results, standings, news, whatever goes on in the NASCAR world. So I want to break this down pretty quick. I had my third prison meeting last night. And so for the moment we all been waiting for, I am going to be giving a talk to the guys or the brothers in prison the Saturday night before Mother's Day weekend. I am going to be talking about leadership. So I'm going to be talking about how I am a leader at my church, how I'm a leader at home, how I'm a leader at work, everywhere I go. And it's actually kind of funny because the guys at my prison meeting said last night, we also want to share, how you're a leader on the Speedway show. And I'm thinking, I think I might want to, I might put that in there. You never know, but yeah. So
Fantastic.
I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's getting close right now, and so I only have like about 2 more meetings left, and then we go to the prison at Norfolk. So it's going to be very exciting, but it's going to be. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I can't wait.
Well, if there's anything I can interject here before you go and do your speech, is that I'm reminded of championship weekend. this past November when I had a little bit of a family emergency and there was nothing I could do. And I texted you and I texted producer Eddie and I said, not going to be there. We can postpone, or Corey, you take the reins and you go to town. And you chose, I'll take the reins. I'm going to go to town. And when I watched it back, and I think I texted you the day or two after, I said, Corey, you did a fantastic job. That's leadership, my friend.
Thank you.
When I tell people about this show, it's on the Loki and Jabroni show, we're two volatile personalities that just bounce off each other. But on this show, you're the stat guy. I'm the guy drinking a 30 rack in the stands, giving his opinion. I don't pretend to be an expert on NASCAR. I don't. But when I listen to you give your dissertation of this stat or that stat or the P1 penalty or the PJ substance or any of that, I buy it. And I don't buy it willy-nilly because, it's Corey and he's my partner. I'm going to cuss now. Horseshit. I buy it because you're knowledgeable. So if you want to take that forward and go and do your speech and say, yes, in this show there are two leaders. There's Corey and there's Jabroni. So yes, sir, you are a leader. And I tip my hat and I say to you, good luck going forward the Saturday night before Mother's Day. Get out there and preach the word, kid, because Lord knows we could use more positivity in this world. And if it's coming from you rather than a jackass like David Hogg, more power to you.
Thank you. And the Wednesday after the prison retreat, I'll give you guys a recap how it all went down, and it's going to be a lot of positives. So I can't wait to share it.
I'd be thrilled to have you take a few minutes on this show and share it with everybody. But as far as plugs go on my end, I'm going to tip this camera real quick. I just got my speed crate, the first paid speed crate I ever got. And some weeks ago, I wanted to buy the shirt that I'm wearing now, and I held off because I didn't know if Harvick could pull off a 4 in a row. And when he didn't, I was like, I don't want to buy the shirt, etc. so forth. In my speed crate, I got the Kevin Harvick 3 wins in a row. GimmickSchneebitzfernum.com with the quote at the bottom. I don't want to. Anything below this is for paying customers. Is this
Classic.
for all you support? I am classy. Leave me alone. Hold on. I'm going to show the rest of the gimmick. The quote at the bottom of the shirt says, "For all you supporters out there and for all you haters, I see you." Probably my second favorite Kevin Harvick shirt of all time. Right next to the one I bought my daughter some years ago when she was just a wee little bitty kid. It said, "I wear the fire suit in the family." In that speed crate, I also got up here, you can see the Freaky Fast double-sided garden sign. On the other side is the Busch car. I also got this fantastic double-sided lanyard. I got a sticker, which I donated to my daughter. And I mentioned it before, quarterly, Pole Position Magazine. It is free in the Speed Crate. This is published by Speed Crate. You can't get this anywhere else. And right here is Kurt Busch. We talked about him earlier. He is really doing great things right now. Easily, $60, $70 worth of gear, yours for $29.95 a month, and you're going to get one for free. And when I say this, when I draw the names, I'm going to draw 5 names out of the bucket of gimmicks. You're going to have a trivia contest that you have to participate in somehow, whether it's on the Loki and Jabroni show to get you to the finals. You're going to win a free speed crate. You have to answer some questions. This is not bullshit. We're giving this away. Speed Crate is on board. I'm trying to get them, if they have an affiliate program, to help the show out. I'm working with Brian Cox right now to make this a reality so that the more you watch this show, and we can get a code where you say, hey, if you're a fan of C&J Speed Review, type in the phrase horse manure and you get whatever. Work that I do that nobody knows about. Real quick, I want to pimp something out. At the top of the Loki and Jabroni Show Facebook page, please go like us, is a fundraiser that we're doing throughout the month of April and beyond. And I say beyond because it's for a friend of mine. I mentioned him earlier. Chad Hatfield is raising money for Team World Vision, which raises money to bring clean water to countries that do not have access to clean water. He is also a church-going guy. He is very, very steeped in his faith, and everything he raises is going to the final goal, which is he is going to run the New York City Marathon in November as a part of Team World Vision, and he needs your support. So whether it's $1, $5, $50, your entire paycheck, whatever it is, give this guy your love. Go to the Loki and Jabroni Show page on Facebook. It's pinned to the top of the page. Click the link. Give Chad a donation. You don't even have to tell him we sent you. Just show him that you care about helping other people. This isn't like being the world police, like whatever. This is helping people who don't have access to clean water get clean water. We can talk about Flint, Michigan all day. That's our government's fault. But folks in other countries, that's tyrannical governments, and this is a way for big-hearted people to help other people. Much like when the Eternal Flame went to Haiti 5 years in a row, she was doing the work that needs to be done. So, for Chad, for Corey, for Angela, from my heart, I say, good on you. Thank you for doing the work that a lot of people are unwilling to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You should never, ever have to thank me for doing the good work that you're doing. Having said that, I'm going to be home in time to watch the Xfinity race tomorrow. Finally, I get to see an Xfinity race. I'll be here Saturday. I took Saturday off to spend with my daughter, and once 6:30 hits, she can kick a bag of rocks, and I'm going to watch the Cup race at one of my favorite tracks. This is going to be an exciting week. Corey, feel better, my friend.
Thank you. And so Friday night, I'm going to have to DVR the Xfinity race. For those of you guys who don't know, me and my brother, we are going to see comedian Joe Rogan tomorrow night. He is going to be at the Wilbur Theater in Boston. So in case you guys ask, I am not going to be bringing my cell phone with me because Joe Rogan has a rule where I guess if you bring your cell phone and if you use it during his show, then you're automatically escorted from the theater. So it's kind of his rule. I mean, I can't really explain it, and they also had a little bit of a gimmick, before anybody goes in this and do that and stuff like that and so on. Saturday, I may or may not watch the Cup race because, in case if you guys didn't know, Friday, Super Troopers 2 comes out.
Oh, God, no, stop. Oh, God.
And there's a possibility that me and my friends are possibly going to see that movie Saturday night. I'm not really sure just yet. But all I can just say is if we do, Chris, you're going to probably be the first one to be known. And I'm probably going to be bugging you before the movie even starts. Be like, Chris, I'm finally going to get my liter of cola as mentioned.
I got nothing. I really got nothing. Listen, if you get a chance to meet Joe Rogan, and I don't know how that works with certain comedians, you can go and after the fact you get. First of all, stop stealing gimmick. That's mine.
Okay.
Gimmick is no, you can use it. But
right.
I met Joe Rogan years ago when I was working for WrestlingOnline.com. I did an interview with Ken Shamrock, and I'll try to link it to something. I've said it for a long time that I would link this interview, and I think I'm just going to link it. I'm going to find it. Right. I'm going to put it on Loki and Jabroni. I'm going to put it on C+J Speedway Review. But I got to meet Joe Rogan because he was doing color commentary for USC.
Yep.
And, he was asking directions around the Mohegan Sun Casino where I worked at the time. And we just got to shooting the shit or what have you. And he asked me something, and I started scratching my neck. I says, "There's something you don't know about me, Joe Rogan." And he said, "If you tell me you smoke crack, I'm just going to lose it." And that's an old Chappelle Show joke.
Wow.
If you've never seen the Chappelle Show, just go find it.
Oh.
It was a highlight for me just to have a moment where I made a comedian laugh. Joe Rogan's incredible. Fantastic. God, just have a good weekend, kid. I'm going to watch the Xfinity race. I'm going to watch the Cup race. You're failing your duties. I don't know how you're still here. I'm going to have Eddie renew your contract. We're going to have to talk about a lot of things. But Corey, got anything else?
I I'd probably say, you know, not that I have in mind, but all I can just say is it's going to be a fun weekend.
It sure is. Guys, for Corey Huffnagel, for producer Eddie Focus, who you never get to see, for myself, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Good night.